Fans of all things hellish and hack and slash have always been able to rely on the cult classic Darksiders franchise. With each game casting you as one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, the first 3 entries all introduce their own unique spins on the traditional third-person action format to help keep things interesting. However, for this 4th go-around, developer Airship Syndicate has pared things back a bit, trying something different by shifting the previous behind-the-character point of view to a fresh-feeling isometric perspective. It works for the most part, with Darksiders Genesis striking a healthy balance between platforming, environmental puzzle solving, and creative action, all whilst weaving a prequel tale set entirely before anything previously. The game may have already released late last year on PC, but now console players can relax knowing that the PS4, Xbox One and Switch version plays just as flawlessly. The top-down perspective might be new, but Genesis is still very much the Darksiders franchise veterans will know and love. Add in the ability to now play as a pair for the first time, and Darksiders Genesis represents a bold new step for the series. I'm Aaron from Console Deals, and let's get into why. While Darksiders Genesis might strike you as a kind of Diablo-style dungeon crawler at first, it isn't long before those gameplay expectations quickly drift away, revealing a setup that's a lot more narrative-driven and familiar. War and Strife find themselves on a mission to bring balance between the realms of heaven and hell, which, as it turns out, is primarily done by blasting and slicing through as many demons as possible, upgrading both characters' attributes and unlocking new skills along the way. Luckily, these 2 playable characters handle wildly different from one another, with War featuring a similar moveset to the one he boasted back in the original Darksiders. He's the one to go for if you're a player that prefers getting up close and personal with foes, as he once again wields his mighty Chaos Eater sword to deliver wide-sweeping attacks. Strife, meanwhile, allows you to approach the game almost like a twin-stick shooter, primarily due to him being equipped with 2 pistols that can switch between several different ammo types, dealing out death from afar. Unfortunately, the story being told is fairly generic though, but you forgive Darksiders Genesis for a lot of this due to how well realised both War and Strife as characters are, especially in the latter's case where this game marks his first appearance. Liam O'Brien yet again lends his gravelly vocal tones to return as the voice of War, lending the broad-shouldered warrior a dark stoicism that's in keeping with where we see him go in the future timeline. Then there's Strife, voiced by Chris Jai Alex, who takes matters far less seriously by comparison. He's very much the loose cannon of the pair, introducing some much appreciated levity to an adventure that would otherwise be at risk of feeling too serious. Both War and Strife play incredibly well off one another, trading interactions that make you appreciate the introduction of cooperative play even more. Speaking of which, while it's true that Darksiders Genesis plays perfectly fine for solo players, you can simply switch between the 2 at your discretion, it's clear that this is a game best experienced with another. Not only because it's good to have the unique power sets of both working in tandem simultaneously, but also because doing so helps you maintain an edge over the enemies, and gives you an extra set of eyes to seek out hidden secrets sprawled out across the map. The console version fully supports local couch co-op as well as online play, so there really is no excuse to not fight side by side. Just as important as slaughtering bosses and minions, however, is the pursuit of various collectibles. Weapon upgrades and skill unlocks are something that the Darksiders series has featured before, but here in Genesis, character improvement is randomised to a certain extent, thanks to a new concept centered around creature cores. Don't worry though, Vulgrim returns as your local shopkeep to sell you some additional buffs in exchange for souls, but often while laying waste to enemies, they'll drop what's known as creature cores. These serve as Genesis' primary method of progression, working as modifiers that subtly change the way you play when slotted into either War or Strife specific skill trees. Both horsemen become stronger over time depending on which cores you opt to slot in, gradually improving their health, wrath and overall attack potential over time. Working out which creature core is best to go where feels cumbersome at first, but this added element of customizability is something that Genesis really starts to benefit from. When it comes to exploration and puzzle solving, it's true that Darksiders Genesis is a little more linear when compared to the previous entries. You see, the shift in perspective now always ensures that you're able to see most of the map's locations as you move through it, meaning that it isn't too often where you have to roam around the map unguided to get to your main goal. There are plenty of offshoots and excuses to venture off the beaten path, sure, but it's not too uncommon to find an area early on that you don't yet have a particular item to access. However, revisiting levels is made incredibly easy as you can always just select a specific area once you're back in the hub. If there's one aspect where Darksiders Genesis does fall down a little, it's surprisingly in its control scheme setup. You'd think that this being a top-down dungeon crawler would mean that the button layout would be simple, but Genesis packs in so many different features and mechanics that at first it can all seem a bit daunting, especially when you're playing solo. You have your light and heavy attacks assigned to the face buttons alongside jump, okay, but then there's the option for summoning your horse, swapping ammunition types, dashing, engaging wrath abilities and so on. It's no exaggeration to say that you're required to hug your controller quite excessively throughout, and Several times at first did I find myself getting punished in fights early on, or trying to clamber around and remember how to pull off just a simple manoeuvre. And yet, Darksiders Genesis still acts as one of the most feature-complete and thrilling top-down hack and slashers we've played in recent years. The dynamic between war and strife is engaging, the animatic cutscenes and environment detail eye-grabbing, but most importantly, the act of butchering endless waves of angels and demons never ceases to be fun. Genesis is a smart twist on the established Darksiders formula we hope just won't be relegated to a spin-off territory. There's too much that's cool about viewing this world from above. We give Darksiders Genesis a 4 out of 5.